everyone. We would like to present about Corpus approaches to discourse analysis. And this will be presented by Miftahunaja Aditya Pratama, Ermalati Putri, Nabila Tasya, and Dorayanti. This discourse analysis and pragmatics were lectured by Dr. Ismail Petrus MA and Professor Dimro Ihsan MA PhD. Okay, so here there are several points that would be explained. The first is related to the definition of a corpus, and second is about kinds of corpora. Third is design and construction of corpora. The fourth point is about issues to consider in constructing a corpus. And then the fifth is the Longman spoken and written English corpus. Six is about discourse characteristics of conversational English, and 7 about performance phenomena of conversational discourse, and 8 is about constructional principles of conversational discourse, and 9 it's about corpus studies of the social nature of discourse, 10 about collocation and corpus studies, and the last one is about criticism of corpus studies.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the first point is what is corpus? A corpus is a collection of spoken or written texts that reflect a specific aspect of language use based on its size and content. However, it is important to note that a corpus may not always represent language use in general or a specific language variety. It can be specialized, like data collected from the internet, or focus on the discourse of single person. So, researchers should be aware of the nature and source of the corpus data to make appropriate claims in their analysis. And corpora are typically computer-readable and accessible with tools like concordansers, which help identify language patterns. They are often created for analytical purposes, with text selected to provide samples or specific text types, genres, or a balanced representation of spoken and written discourse. Corpus studies examine language features, occurrence and reoccurrence, analyzing aspects such as collocation, words that typically appear together, and item frequency. These studies can investigate language use in general or within specific domains such as spoken academic discourse or particular genres like university tutorial discussions. So, the next point is kinds of corpora. The first is general corpora. These are collections of spoken or written texts that represent language in its broadest sense and serve as a resource for baseline linguistic studies. They help us to understand general language patterns. For example, they can help us see how certain words are commonly used in English. Second, specialized corpora. These are collections of texts of a particular type, such as academic articles or casual conversation. They aim to investigate specific aspects of language use in particular situation or text type. For example, specialized corpora can help us understand how people use language in academic lectures or casual conversation. The third is the Michigan Corpus of Academic Spoken English, or MyCase. This is a specialized corpus that focuses on spoken academic discourse. Researchers have used it to study things like the use of hedges, words that soften statement in academic speech. And the fourth is the British Academic Spoken English, or BASE corpus. Similar to MyCase, BASE focuses on spoken academic English but was developed in the UK. It has been used to study the relationship between speech speed and vocabulary complexity in academic lectures. The fifth is the British Academic Written English corpus, or BOE. This corpus focuses on written assignment from students in various disciplines. Researchers use it to understand academic writing requirement in British universities. And the last is the TOEFL Spoken and Written Academic Language Corpus. This corpus includes both spoken and written texts from US universities. It helps us to understand how language is used in different university settings, including classroom teaching and textbooks. Okay, the next point is design and construction of corpora. The first design is established corpora. Established corpora are already existing corpora that researchers can use for studying spoken and written discourse. These contain data for studying language use in various contexts, from general language to specific areas like academic writing or speaking. Second, custom-made corpora. Sometimes, if we want to study a specific genre like context for which there is no available data, we will need to create our own corpus. For example, a researcher might create a custom corpus to understand how personal pronouns are used in a particular type of academic writing at their institution. And the third is Highlands study. Highlands research is an example of custom-made corpus. He designed it to answer questions about the use of personal pronouns in Hong Kong students' academic writing, focusing on self-mention to strengthen arguments and gain personal recognition. The fourth is comparing findings. Researchers can use their custom-made corpus and also compare their findings with existing corpora to gain insight into broader academic practices. And fifth, Harwood's study. Harwood also created his own corpus for his research on the use of personal pronouns in journal research article, and he combined quantitative and qualitative analysis to understand the frequency and function of these pronouns and compared his findings with academic writing textbooks. And the last is custom-made corpus strengths and limitations. Custom-made corpora are tailored to specific research questions, but they don't necessarily need to be large. And smaller, focused corpora can be created quickly and are useful for studying specific genres and learner needs. So, researchers can use established corpora or create their custom-made corpora depending on their research and the availability of suitable data. Custom-made corpora offer flexibility in exploring specific language use pattern in particular context.
Alright, so here I am going to continue to the next explanation related to the issues to consider in constructing a corpus. Corpus, which is a collection of texts or spoken language used for linguistic analysis, is a complex task that involves several important considerations. The first, we have to consider the authenticity, representativeness, and validity of the corpus. Authenticity refers to the text in the corpus that should be genuine and reflective of real language use. And then, for the representativeness, means that the corpus should represent the variety and diversity of the language or discourse under study. That also captures different contexts and styles. And for validity means that the corpus must accurately reflect the language patterns and phenomena it aims to investigate. And then the second considerations, it is related to the kinds of text to include in the corpus. Deciding what type of text to include in the corpus, it is crucial because it depends on the purpose of the corpus or the availability of the text. And then the third consideration is related to the size of the text in the corpus. The size of the individual text included in the corpus is also important. If the goal is to study a specific genre, means that the text size should align with the typical length of text in that genre. And then the fourth considerations related to the sampling and representativeness of the corpus. Sampling involves selecting texts or portions of text inclusions in the corpus. The populations could be specific language variety, genre, and social group. Considerations are essential in the corpus designs to ensure that the resulting corpus is a valuable and accurate resource for linguistic and also discourse analysis. And then the next, I am going to explain about the Longman spoken and written English corpus. The Longman spoken and written English corpus is an important corpus used for linguistic research, particularly for the development of the Longman grammar of spoken and written English. This corpus is a substantial collection of texts that comprises various types of language use. Key features of Longman spoken and written English corpus which contains approximately 40 million words, making it a substantial linguistic resource for analysis. It encompasses four major discourse types like conversations, fictions, news, and academic prose. And the corpus of longman and spoken written English includes a mixture of British English and American English data. And this also includes the diverse range of text with varying lengths. And for the goal of the longman spoken and written English corpus itself, it is to provide a representative sample of text across the discourse types it covers. It aimed to represent a wide range of English speakers in terms of age, gender, social groups, and regional variations. So, the longman spoken written English corpus is a valuable resource for linguistics and researchers who are interested in studying the different forms of language and discourse in contemporary British and American English, because it allows for in-depth linguistic analysis and provides insights into how language is used in various contexts. Then, the next, I will explain about discourse characteristics of conversational English. So the first characteristics is non-clause units in conversational discourse. Well, in conversations, people frequently use what we call non-clause unit. These are basically statements or phrases that don't have subject and verb, and they stand on their own. In conversation, people tend to interact quickly, and they often skip detailed explanations or formal sentence structure. So, like for example, in the dialogue here, related to the TV show where family members are arguing. So, the italic words refers to the non-clause units in conversational discourse. The dialogue in such setting often involves the short to the point phrases without many elaborate sentence structures. Second is related to the personal pronouns and ellipses in conversations. In conversations, we use personal pronouns like he or she and ellipses by omitting unnecessary words, because the context of conversations makes it clear what we are talking about, and this keeps our communication efficient. Like for example, we might say she went to the store instead of repeating the name because it is understood in the context. And the third characteristic is situational ellipsis in conversations. In conversation, people often leave out words that are obvious from the context. This is known as situational ellipsis. Then, the fourth is related to the non-clausal units as elliptical replies in conversations. In conversations, non-clausal units like elliptical replies are quite common. For example, when Mary says, "Why?" Here, there's the missing information, which is, "Do you have to get Paul to come over?" This information is understood by both speakers due to the shared context in the conversation, and it is a way of communicating efficiently when both people already know what's being talked about. You can see the dialogue here. And then the fifth characteristics of conversational discourse is related to the repetition in conversations. In conversation, repetition is used more frequently than in written language, because it can serve to emphasize a point or idea during the conversations. And the six characteristics related to the lexical bundles in conversational discourse. Conversational discourse also makes frequent use of lexical bundles. Lexical bundles may occur more frequently in spoken discourse than they do in written discourse. They do this as a conversation occurs in real time. Like for example, Ryan uses a lexical bundle, "I'm just saying." Then the utterance take and hold to this turn while he plans to say to the Mary. Okay, that's all my explanations. Next, it will be continued by my partner.
Performance phenomena of conversational discourse. Speakers need to both plan what they are going to say and speak at the same time as they are doing this, meaning that their speech contains pauses, hesitations, and repetitions while this happens. Some of the common phenomena in conversational discourse include: first, Silent and filled pauses. Pauses are a common features of spoken language, and they can be used to indicate hesitations, uncertainty, and the signal the end of a turn. Silent pauses is a pauses where there is no sound is produced, while filled pauses are pauses where a sound is produced, such as or uh. For example, Mary said, "You are being a 16 years old twit. Sit down and write down your guest." In the following example, Mary used a silent pause to hold on to her turn. Second, utterance slaughers and filled pauses. Utterance slaughers are words or phrases that are used to signal the start of new turn in conversation. Filled pauses at the transition point in conversational discourse typically use utterance slaughers such as well and right as the speakers prepare what they want to say. For example, Ryan said, "And can I have a DJ too? Is it okay?" At the beginning of the conversation, Ryan used "and" as an utterance launchers. Next example, John said, "How many people's coming?" Mary said, "Well, he wrote the invitations yesterday." John said, "Well, how many's he invited?" Mary said, "I don't know." John said, "Well, find out how many he's invited." Mary said, "Will we have a buzzer?" John said, "Well, we'll have to find out how many's coming." Later, Mary used right as an utterance launcher to both to take turn, to fill a pause, and to affirm the point she is about to make. Mary said, "Right, so we get out there and we do the twist and the bob and the shimmy shimmy and whatever, do we?" John and Mary both use "well" as the utterance launchers to take follow-up turn and fill potential pauses as they discuss how many people are coming to the party. Third, attention signal in conversation. Speakers often use another person's name as an attention signal to make it clear who they are speaking to. As in, Mary said, "John?" John said, "What?" Fourth, respond indicators in conversation. There are a number of typical ways of eliciting a response in conversational discourse. For example, question tag. Question tag can function as a response indicator, as in, Mary said, "We'll keep an orderly party for Saturday night, all right?" As can a signal item, as in the example, Mary said, "We had your damn party over at the park. We didn't have any gushers." Ryan said, "Party over at the park? How old was Mom?" 8. Mary said, 6. Fifth, non-clausual item as a response forms. Non-clausual items such as yeah, or okay often operate as response form in the conversation, as in, Mary said, "The DJ, why did you have to have a DJ? What does she do? Just play records all night?" Ryan said, "Yeah." 6. Extended coordinating of the clauses. Conversational discourse often includes long extended turns. These turns may be extended by coordinating where one clausal unit is added to another and then another with items such as and but or by the direct just a point just a portion of the clause, as in Ryan said, we'll leave the gate open, we'll leave the pontoon there, and you'll see, just see. You think I'm so stupid, but if you look around and open your eyes, you'll see. Constructional principle of conversational discourse. The Longman grammar discusses three key principles where underline the production of conversational discourse. First, the principle of keeping talking. It refers to the need to keep a conversation going while planning for the conversation is going on. Second, the principle of limiting the planning ahead refers to the human memory limitations on planning ahead. That is, a restriction on the amount of the synthetic information that can be stored in memory while the planning is actually taking place. Next, the principle of qualification of what has been said refers to the need to qualify what has been said after the event and to add things which otherwise would have already been said in the conversation. This may be done by the use of the digression inserted in the middle of something else or by the use of add-ons to what has been said. The overall constructional principle of conversational discourse are the rules that govern how people construct their utterance in conversations. They include prefaces and tags. Prefaces are expressions that speakers use to introduce their utterance. They can be used to signal the speaker's intention, to soften the impact of what they are about to say, and or to provide context for their statements. For example, the prefacing expression include I think, I believe, in my opinion, and to be honest. This is the example. In the following example, a main clause is added on to make the first part as the sentence independent clause, as in Ryan said, "You guys are living in the past, I think." In conversation, the main part of the speaker's message is often preceded by a preface which connects what they have to say to the previous utterance, as well as giving the speakers time to plan what they will say next. Preference may include fronting of clausal units, non-praise, discourse makers, and other expressions such as interjection, response forms, linking verbs, and so on. This is the example, a noun phrase, the object of the sentence, used as the preference preface. For example, Mary said, "The DJ, why did you have to have a DJ?" This is the next example. Mary used this single word, truly, as a preference to the Orient John to say, Mary said, "Truly, it's more drama living in this house than out of it." The following is example of lexical bundle. I'm saying is being used to overturn to preface what John want to say. John said, "All I'm saying is, if you are invited 37 people and they're going to bring friends, you can't bring them." Okay. Text. Text is short phrases that speakers add in the end of their utterance. They can be used to elicit a response in conversation. So, It express the uncertainty or doubt. For example, in question tag, don't you think? Right? Or isn't it? And speakers adds the text in the main ways as afterthought to the grammatical unit in conversational discourse. They can do this by use the question tag at the end of a sentence. The effect of visit is to turn a statement in a question. For example, Ryan is in reply to John and Mary. Mary said, "Well, there's not going to be any trouble." John said, "Well, Ryan seems to think there is." Ryan said, "Oh yeah, there's gonna be gang welfare in backyard." So in the question tag, a tag can also add it to the end of the statement to reinforce what has just been said. Can be done by repeating a noun phrase, by paraphrasing what has been said, and by adding clausal or non-clausal unit to what has just been said.
Alright, so here I'm going to continue the explanation related to the corpus studies of the social nature of discourse. Corpus studies have also considered what the use of the discourse means in wider social terms. For example, Swells 2003 asks whether the use of spoken language in academic setting can help us understand whether the university is a single community of practice or a set of tribalized cadres of communities of practice. He found spoken discourse to be unpretentious in terms of vocabulary choice. It also generally avoided name dropping and the use of obscure references. He concluded, as a result of his analysis, that from a language point of view, there are fewer barriers to cross-disciplinary oral communications than there perhaps might be in written academic communication because of the convergence of spoken discourse styles. Swells also found the same level of informality and casualness in academic speech as in conversational discourse. The following example from the opening of an ecology colloquium is an example of this. This example shows the extended coordination of clausal unit by the use of and revert to above. The H sort of at the beginning is also typical of conversational discourse as well as spoken academic discourse. What we plan to hear is I'll talk for a little bit about sort of the underlying theoretical framework that we think we are operating under here, and then when I finish that, there will be just few minutes or so, and then I'll talk about the work that we are doing in Nicaragua, and when I finish talking about the work that we are doing in Nicaragua, why Avet will talk about the work that we are doing in Mexico. And then finally, when she finished why, I'll come back here to talk a little bit more reflective about how the theoretical framework fits into the work that we are doing and what we plan to do in the future, and how people might she be wanting to join us. Okay, Highland's study of the generic structure of second language students' dissertation acknowledgments is a further example of corpus study which examines to the discourse structure of part of genre, as well as the social role of this part of the discourse. His analysis shows not only the typical ways in which these texts are organized, but also how students use their texts to display their disciplinary membership and networks at the same time as they express gratitude to the people that have
helped them in their academic undertaking. The following example of how one of the students in Highlands study expressed gratitude in their dissertation implementation section. As you can see here in underlined sentence, the writing of an MA thesis is not an easy task. During the time of writing, I received support and help from many people. In particular, I'm profoundly indebted to my supervisor, Dr. James Fang, who was very generous with his time and knowledge and assisted me in each step to complete the thesis. I'm grateful to the School of Humanities and Social Science of HKUST, whose research travel grant made the field work possible. Many thanks also to those who helped arrange the field work for me. And finally, but not least, thanks go to my whole family who have been an important and indispensable source of spiritual support. However, I'm the only person responsible for errors in the thesis. Highland 2004. Let's jump to the next topic. It's about collocation and corpus studies. Corpus studies have also been used to examine collocations in spoken and written discourse. Highland 2004 found in his study of dissertation acknowledgement by searching their corpus to see how the writers typically express gratitude. And then, what items typically occur to the left of the item thanks through their use of language. Highland and Z 2004 display their immersion in scholarly networks, their active disciplinary membership, and their observance of the valued academic norms of modesty, gratitude, and appropriate self-effacement as the example in the previous section show. We 2001 carried out a corpus-based study of the language of personal ads on internet sites in the US and in Singapore, while Bruthew 1999 carried out a corpus-based study of the language of ads in personal columns in the LA Weekly. We used the concordance program. Watts-Smith's tools to examine word frequency and lexical and grammatical collocation in his example text. His interest was in how people in different cultures communicate on the internet on the same topic and in the same genre, as well as what gender differences there might be in the ways that they do this. He found, for example, that many US writers use the terms attractive and great as descriptive device, whereas the Singaporean writers largely did not. Use the item old. Many more men precede this with specification of age, as in 39 years old, than did women. The verb looking for predominated the data and commonly collocated with an item which represented the writer's hope or dream, as in someone special, that special woman, a discrete relationship, looking for a feature of the language of romance, dating, intimacy, and desire. Bruthew 1999 found in his study that writers frequently use personal chaining and hyphenated items in personal advertisements, that is, strings of adjective and noun. Conventionalized abbreviation for collocations such as SAM for single Asian male and SWF for single white female. The genre of personal ads further continuously use a linguistic simplification and an economy language that is characteristic of other discourse types, such as newspaper headlines, academic note-taking, and conversational discourse. Well, this is the last material. It's about criticism of corpus studies. There have, however, been criticism of corpus. Flowerdew 2005 provides a summary of and response to some of this criticism. One criticism is that the computer-based orientation of corpus studies leads to atomized, bottom-up investigation of language use and aspect of text. Shared cultural values required of reader and writers of the text and knowledge of other texts that can be considered in corpus studies to help address this issue. As he argues, understanding language use includes understanding social and contextual knowledge, not just knowledge of the language system. One way of gaining contextual information for an analysis is by the use of interview and focus group discussion with users of the genre and consideration of the textual information revealed in the corpus studies in relation to this information, as Highland 2004 did in his disciplinary discourse. A further approach is to read more widely on the topic of the discourse to see if this might help explain to provide insight in the analysis. Each of these strategies can help offset the argument that corpus studies are necessarily decontextualized and only of interest at the item, rather than the discourse level.